Welcome to Writer Syndrome, a podcast about writing from start to finish. This episode's topic, the art-life balance. I'm Russ Capasso, and joining me as always is Tim Letney. Tim, how are you?
I am unbalanced.
We are very unbalanced today. You know what? We're just going to keep moving because
it took us even a long time to record the intro today.
We are not balanced at all. So this is probably a good topic for us to get into. And do we even know how to balance it? I don't even know if we know how to balance art and life.
No, I thought I did. I thought I had it.
I thought I did too.
I've been spouting advice and like following my own. I picture it's kind of like riding a bike that doesn't have a steering wheel while holding a bunch of crap in my hands, maybe plates. And it's like, all right, I'm cruising forward and there's some bumps and I've got all my plates. But as soon as a few more plates get added, everything crashes to the ground.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that like if the plates are tasks and responsibilities, I have too much going on right now to like steadily move forward because I was cruising. I was doing so well. And now I just feel like I'm on the floor hugging my knee because I fell.
You were like the last 2 weeks or so, I know you and I talking and you were just like, I can't think or do anything. Like I'm just like, the book is like, you're like, I can't even focus on this thing. I don't even know where I am. It's just, everything is just collapsing all in at the same time. Not collapsing in a total negative way, but just in a sense of like, you're getting overwhelmed with the life side of things. And like, how do you keep trudging forward with the art? So
yeah. And I think it's two things, right? I think one, I'd sent things off I'd sent my work to be beta read. So that gave me a window of time that I probably should have filled with other writing stuff, So instead of keeping that time in the morning that I'd had, I just kind of let it go away and I lost the routine of it.
Yeah.
And, I read a little bit, but mostly I just got a little crazy. And then my kids ended up going back to school. So that's a new morning routine, getting them up and getting them in. And then I'm coaching kids soccer, which, you wouldn't think is anything. But on top of life, those 4 days a week, 2 that I'm coaching one of my kids and then one game, and then my other daughter's got a game. I just feel very, very flooded with stuff, and it's been really hard to carve out the time. And I think I've made some inroads in the past weeks. You've sent me that beta feedback, and I've been able to go through it, but I have not been able to focus enough to tackle the big pieces. I've been going and like tackling spelling errors or how I don't know how to spell wave 100 times.
I think I highlighted all 100 of those, by the way.
Thank you, because so I've been doing that, I think, just to kind of, it's like the light weight at a gym or something, just to kind of get back into the routine and not get discouraged. And every time I come across a big comment or a big suggestion that I agree with that I want to change, I'm like, I'll get back to that, because right now, I don't know if I actually have the fortitude to do that type of edit right now. So I'm just trying to find the routine again. How about you? How are you feeling these days?
Pretty better. I think I hit patches of just too much else going on, planning too many things, a lot of social things all like kind of the same time, and
not book related things.
Yeah, not book related things. And it was a combination of working through book stuff, hitting a point where I was just like, I don't know what the hell to do with this. I need to actually think on it. So it's like, okay, let me think on that. And it's like, well, I'm not actually writing. I'm now trying to work through like problem solving for, issues in the book, plot issues. And, what did this character say back in chapter 2? And I got to go find that and make sure things align there to later on. But then on, I think the things that pulled me away was just I think life in general is just I packed too many things all at once. It wasn't like they fell on me like kind of, it sounds like your situation was just like shit just kind of blew up. I kind of self-inflicted this on myself, right? And I was like, well, I can step back from, I'm just thinking this thing through and I'll get to it tomorrow. I've got to do these other things first, and because I've already committed to them, and kind of the same way where I don't need to do this right now, I can do it tomorrow type of thing, which is never good. It's like, I think even if you hit that spot where, and somebody was going to ask you too, because like you handed the book off to me and Jill for like, beta feedback. And then you kind of like, you're like, okay, I'm going to wipe my hands of this. And then I can, now that time is just new time I've got to do these other things I need to do in life. That's not art, which.
You know what those things were? Those things were napping. I was like, what am I gonna do at like 7:30 to like 9? I know, I'll just go back to bed. That's a great idea.
Sleep in. So yeah, it's similar. It's just a similar thing, but mine is just more self-inflicted. And then I just wasn't keeping up. And I think we talked about this in maybe the editing process of, you're not writing fresh words, every time you're editing. But you should have a goal for your day. And that's what I found. I have to have a goal and have to stick with it every single day. If I'm not editing something, then write something new, get to that 2,000, whatever the goal is, and just do something, work on something else. Because then I do find you get into a habit of I missed one day, and then all of a sudden you missed 2 days, and all of a sudden you're we talked about this. It's well, I can make this up in day 3 and I'll just do 6,000. It's no, you're not.
Yep.
Just pick up back where you were. But it's tough. And I kind of hit that because now it's just heavy lifting of the brain, solving problems in the book.
So you mentioned something.
I got lazy. Procrastination stepped in, and it was just why don't I just go do this other thing?
Was that from feeling overwhelmed, Russ? That did the research itself, was that a form of procrastination, or was that actually necessary?
No, I think it was. And I think that's another thing I'm now learning to be cautious of. There's definitely the research rabbit hole. I started falling down, and then I was well, I'm doing research. And it's yeah, but you're not writing, you're not editing, you're not fixing things. You're just surfing the internet. And then all of a sudden you're on YouTube, and all of a sudden you're watching reviews for video games you want to play that aren't coming out for 2 years. And you're but it's research. It's research. It's all research. I want to see what other stories are out there. So yeah, it's a slippery slope to just kind of lose track of those things. I had the same problem. The problem I didn't have, actually, I take that back. When I first handed off my manuscript to beta readers, to you and everything else, when I went through those couple of rounds, I tried to fill my time with thinking about book 2 and 3 or coming up with other ideas, and even if it's just working on a treatment or just some world building or whatever, at least I was focused on and doing something within that, that process. So then it's oh, cool. I've got all these ideas and things I've put together. Now I'll get the book back. I can go through those things. And when I come back to all these ideas I had then, maybe I'll have a new, fresh, perspective on them. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so important that gap of time handing things away to keep that time, and don't let, it's tough, but not letting life kind of take over the art too much, because it's a snowball effect, right? It's once you get going, you just got to keep going, because once it stops, you lose so much momentum.
Yeah.
I'm finding, at least for me. So
yeah, when I finished my first draft, I was able to do that, and I sat down, and I didn't plot anything out, but I started writing again, and I had a couple short stories that I planned getting back to during this time period. I didn't do it. I wanted to, lean into something that you'd mentioned when you were talking a second ago about self-imposed, maybe.
Yeah.
I do think we're treating writing like this kind of core functionality. We talked to Jeff Morrison, successful self-published author, and he said something really interesting during our interview, that it had taken him 5 years.
Yeah.
And that he didn't think, had he pushed through, in 1 year, that it would have been as good. He kind of waited for it, and let those connections be made, and it kind of stewed and simmered.
Yeah.
And he felt like it was a stronger piece for it. So I guess I want to address the urgency, and maybe the self-imposed urgency that we're putting on ourselves to, get this out quick.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, 5 years is a long time, but what's pushing you, to get it out? What you've got, I know I want to get my, third draft out to a next round of beta readers in October. Yeah. I don't know why. I just feel like it's Halloween and I want to get people reading this thing again, but I don't have any broad marketing plan or anything. I just want to get it out, Yeah, no, I think that's interesting between the two of us, because, and even Jeff brought this up too, and why some of his work took him a little bit longer, because he was I don't need this as I have a job, this is more of he very much enjoys doing it. Right. And, but it's still kind of in that hobby shape. And he's yeah, it's great. Released a book and cool. It brought in some extra income, but he's that's not why I did it. It's not why I needed it. I'm not saying that I necessarily, that's what I'm looking for, because that's not going to be the breadwinner, but I'm also in a spot where I took time off from that regular job to pursue this thing. Now I'm getting to a point of all right, I got to do this thing, and then carry on with life and figure out what's next, because I was thinking about it,
And when I tried writing, when I had a full-time job, I just couldn't do it.
Mm.
I could not do it. Maybe it's just me. I know some people are like, you got to wake up at 5 a.m. You write for an hour or 2 hours and you go to work and you come home and maybe you write for another hour. I'm like, I tried that and I just toasted myself, like getting up at 6 a.m., writing for an hour, go to work at 7, work until like 6, 7 o'clock, come home, try to write for another hour. And I was like, this is, I personally cannot maintain this in a healthy way. And that's why I was like, you know what? I was in a spot where I put myself where I could take some time off to just focus on the writing and do it. But yeah, I mean, I was having a hard time balancing art and life when I had a full-time job because it was just impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I think you always hear stories about, the successful authors, I forget who it was, but somebody was like writing in a laundry room, because they worked in a laundry room. It's like they would sneak in writing at their job. They could like bag out and write. But I feel like you can't necessarily, in a capitalist society, be successful at your work while I don't think you can give your all in all aspects of life. Something has to give at some point.
Yeah. I mean, we can't, we're by nature, we're not the best multitaskers. People like to think they are, but you're losing quality somewhere. And there's no doubt you may not see it, but someone who's on the other side of whatever you're working on probably does see it.
Like, I don't know if I would have been able to write without work from home and the new time I've gotten from losing a commute.
Yeah.
But also there's times, and I just got through one from about August until really now. And it's probably still that work itself is busy. Like my job is now starting a little bit before 9, easy. It's going into the evening, even though I'm remote, right? Like I'm fully remote right now, but things are crazy busy. So even if I'm not working on something, but that stuff has a lasting effect, it's still in my brain. Even if I'm not writing an email or taking a meeting or, trying to work out a schedule or a plan, it's still there. Yeah. And that is completely contrary to creating for me. Like that's a very pragmatic part of my brain. So, I mean, that's why I've found historically that the mornings are always best because it's before, I won't say polluted, but it's before I'm like, my brain is distracted and working in a different way. I work the best in the morning and I can edit at night. I sat down the other night and edited, especially when it's stuff like this is a misspelling or this character name is wrong or yada, yada, yada. But when it comes to that kind of creation process, it's in complete conflict with my 9 to 5, which has lately been like an 8 to 6. And then, you lay your kids on top of that.
I mean, I have to say, like, we are obviously very different life, placement. You've got kids, you've got the dog, you've got, full-time work, where I have none of that. So I really have no complaints. So I should be able to just work on the art and get it done.
But we have different processes, right? Like you are a planner and you have spreadsheets. I probably am not because I fucking can't. I don't think I'd be able to do it. I think I'm a bit of a pantser because I'm pantsing my whole life right now. And from afar, and maybe that's just what life is, right? Like a series of kind of random things stitched together. And from afar, it looks like process, but really it's just like really sloppy juggling.
Juggling with plates.
A lot of metaphors today. I just feel like one thing that has helped, and we keep coming back to it, is just chatting with you, chatting with my wife. Like about art. Like if I'm chatting about her script or chatting about your book, that does give me a bit of a kick in the pants, keeping the company of other creators keeps your mind, I think, open to those possibilities and kind of inspired and like, oh, I want to get back to doing that. Oh, I want to do that. So you aim for 4 a day, like 4 hours a day in the morning. Is that like your minimum? And if so, do you have a maximum?
That's definitely the minimum within a day. And I'll break it up. Sometimes I'll do 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon or something. But it's also coming back to that's the block of time. I kind of set myself up to get to my goal, right? So sometimes it'll take longer. Like editing, it's like I'm looking at trying to get through 4,000 words, which is typically, a couple scenes, 2 chapters, whatever, just to review and tweak stuff. And I'm finding I can get through that in 3-4 hours. Like there's some things that take me no time. Like yesterday I worked for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I cranked through a bunch of stuff. I was like, this feels good. I feel I'm at a good pace. But then I hit something and it took me like one thing to fix. Took me like an hour and whiteboard and mapping and seeing like who said what and where the hell is everyone, and going back, digging through my spreadsheet and being like, okay, I revealed this thing here. I set this thing up here, make sure it's consistent with this thing down here. So yeah, then it's like all of a sudden one thing has taken up my entire day. And I think that's also why I'm stumbling a bit lately, trying to get back into like I've got a hard deadline coming up, and I'm like, I'd say 50%, maybe 60% through it, but I'm getting to like the toughest parts right now, which I should have done off the bat. I'm like in that last, section of the second act, and then I'm getting into the third act, which is it's loosey goosey and all over the place. So now I'm like kind of like a little stressed on myself because I'm like, I had this time, where did it all go? And what did I do? And I'm coming back to like yesterday, I just sat and I like took a deep breath, and I was like, I have to put on my old product management hat, my old job of like saying no to people. Like people come to me and be like, hey, we need this thing. I'm like, no, it's not the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And I actually have to do that for myself. I have to be like, doing this thing or doing that thing or doing this social activity or whatever. No, I have to just say, no, this is not the most important thing. And I think that's what that kind of helps you kind of balance that art life thing, for me, completing this book and getting through it, because one, I have deadlines, and two, I just got to get this fucking thing done,
Yeah. And it's a short deadline, right? I mean, I would almost caution against that because it sounds like, leaning in, right? But I understand that you've got an October 10th deadline, and you need to manage yourself and manage your book and your time, but that will be to the detriment of your own like social happiness, and like that could be dangerous, right? If it's more than the next 11 days, but if it's a hard deadline, then maybe not so bad.
Yeah, and I don't know what that balance is, and it's like I have set plans with some people I do every week or whatever. And it's like, I have to be like, I can't do that this week. I really have to I have to stay focused on this thing.
Russ, are you breaking up with me right now?
I think so. That's it. Podcast is over.
No. This is a setup.
Kind of tee you up to that and build you up to it.
God. Well, this is our last episode of Writer Syndrome.
Thanks for joining us on the ride. We'll be back in 2023. No, just kidding. No. Yeah, no, it comes from all different angles. And, like I said before, like a lot of my problems are, one, self-imposed, two, to be honest, like completely poor management of my own time. Like I'm usually very good at this stuff, but it's like, I've hit this point in this process that I didn't know what to do when I got to it. And I still am like learning how to do this thing,
Is this so it's the content edit?
Yeah. And like, this is all new to me. It's like taking this really heavy feedback from someone who, knows how to construct a story as a professional, and like going through it and rating it, like, is this important? And it kind of blocks it, it blocked me, got me stuck at some points, because it's a new process. And it's not like a fresh thinking thing where like that first draft, you're just kind of cranking through.
Yeah.
And I'm tying this back to like the art life balance, because you hit these moments of like, I am stuck on this thing. I don't know what to do. I guess I can move on to something else, but I really need to solve this problem because it could have a ripple effect to all these other things. And then you just sit there and you're like, you kind of procrastinate. You stare at the screen because I don't know what to do. And it's like, well, let me go for a walk. Let me go to the park.
So you're still like mentally engaged in the book, but not actually doing anything.
Yeah. Which is really tough, because now I'm like
stress, right? Yeah.
Well, now I'm at the point where like I'm fluctuating every other day right now of like, I am fucking sick of this book. And now, and I think we've said this multiple times for other episodes. We're like, yeah, I'm just like, I am sick of it. But then I get into it and I fix some stuff and I'm like, I'm excited again. Like, this is awesome. Yeah. I can't wait. And it's getting better. I can see it. But I think those moments just kind of kick in some, procrastination, which is definitely, procrastination's a total jerk, but it can be your best friend because it wants to be,
Yeah.
Like, just come over, lay on the couch. We'll hang out. We'll play some video games, watch some TV, go up to the park or whatever. And you're like, no, back off, procrastination. You're get out of here.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, I had a moment last night, 2 nights ago, where I wanted to edit in the morning and I didn't get to it. And then the day happened and like I blinked and it was like 10:30 and I was like, I'm gonna sit down and edit. And I was like, if I edit now, will I not tomorrow? Because I'm so burnt out on my day. And I ended up going down and replaying God of War. Already beat the game. It's a great game.
Great game.
Great game. 2018 God of War. But and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if I should have persevered and worked for an hour. Because the next day I did wake up and I did edit. But I was concerned that I was going to be so frazzled and I'd finish at like midnight and just feel like, I don't know, just spent or burnt out.
I don't know. Like the thing I think this all boils down to is like keeping that schedule, but like just even doing something. I'm finding like even if it's the smallest thing, just like do something every day towards it. If I don't get my 4 hours in, I don't get my 4K, you know, whatever my goal is for the day. Like if I don't get there, it's okay, but just do something. Like make some bit of progress, because that stacking method, it doesn't work. Like you're not gonna just next day be like, I'm all refreshed and you know what? I love this thing and I'm gonna power through and crush all this stupid stuff. It's like, no, you're not.
I do feel like there is something about, and I don't know, I might be just riffing here, but I feel like framing matters. You know how there's that like old adage, I don't even know if it's an adage, but that stupid thing like, oh, you know, you're wearing a suit or is the suit wearing you type of thing. I feel like my day, I often feel like somebody's abusing me with it, as opposed to like I'm choosing, but actually I'm choosing to do all these things, right? But instead I'm like blaming. I'm like, oh, like I just feel so overwhelmed that the day's happening to me. It's just this constant downpour of stuff. But when really in actuality, I'm choosing to do all of the things, but I have this inherent need to blame. Like, oh my God. So I wonder if I reframed a little bit, like I am actively choosing to write and I'm actively choosing to coach soccer. I'm actively choosing to run. But I often do frame it like, you know, poor me, just give me a blanket. The other day I was talking to my wife and I was like, I just want to get a little sick. Like maybe just like a little leg injury that will get me in a hospital for like 2 days. I just need a 2-day timeout from life completely. And that's a ridiculous thing to even think. But I felt that way. And I know she's felt that way in the past when we were first having kids. It was like, just, as if I just break my leg and then everything has to stop for just a minute.
Can you just throw me off this 2-story building? Why do I have to throw you? Because I can't do it myself.
I can't do it myself. But that's crazy, right? It's like, I don't know.
I think, again, keep coming back to it. It's just, it's that rinse and repeat type of action every day. That's important. And especially for me.
Like, it's not exciting, but you're right. It's got to be some kind of consistent schedule.
Where I'm like, so I'm in like a spot where like, what I would love for this to be some type of part-time, you know, or even full-time thing I'm doing, like writing books. Like, you know, I'm immensely enjoying the process. And I think getting to the second book, once I get through this, I'm going to have like, oh man, I've been taking notes at every step of the way of like, okay, what did I get stuck and how can I do this better? You know? And
is there something that you could have done right now, like to make your content edit be less of a burden?
I think just being consistent. I think getting even like I said, and just harping on it, is like doing something every day, because at least then I would have been making progress. And there was times where I was like 2 or 3 days not working on it all. Like I'd sit there and I'd stare at it and like scroll through all the notes and like think about stuff. And then I would do like a little bit, but it wasn't.
But that's tough, right? Because you actually made the time, you sat down.
Yeah. And then so
like objectively you were doing something, but it wasn't pushing anything forward.
Yeah. It wasn't moving towards a goalpost. You know, I wasn't getting anywhere. And then I felt like I was just like treading, my wheels were just spinning in mud, you know, and it's just like, well, I am working on it, but I'm not working on it. Like I'm not getting anywhere. Like what am I doing wrong here? And I think
that's so interesting.
Didn't actually, you know, make any changes or fix, you know, the problems that are in there.
Man, when is making the time not, that's so weird. It's so weird to me that you can you have the time and you're in the space and even in the headspace. Yeah. And then it's just like dud fireworks, right?
Yep.
Like,
yeah, I'll sit down and I'll be like, I'm ready to go. And I'll like scroll through things and then I'll hit something. I'm like, all right, this is my goal for today, is to fix this problem. And it just becomes bigger and then I get overwhelmed.
Oh, okay.
My brain is very like, I'm finally at the age where like I know I'm a pretty linear thinking person, you know, like sure I can whiteboard and do all this sort of, you know, blah blah blah, but I'm working on something like I'm just like on this one thing. So it's like I'd come across something in the story that was wrong, and all of a sudden it just bounced to like 4 or 5 different other issues I had to do, and I instantly got just like, oh come on, like who wrote this book? Who did this? Why is
Who
this?
did this to me?
Yeah. Who did this to me? Who can I blame? Who can I point a finger at? You know?
Me from last year. Oh.
Yeah. 2020 me, 2021 me, this year me. So yeah, and I think it's just I don't know if there's like I don't know how you feel about having like a push or like a pressure to get you to do something.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, I have a couple different pressures. One is like I've left the normal world to work on this book, and now I've got deadlines, right? So that's like a push, and then that's kind of like that's a way to induce stress when you have that like that pressure. But sometimes that's good because it gets you motivated to work, or like I've got to get this thing done, and forces you to push through, even if it's bullshit you're putting down on paper. At least you're getting through it and moving on to the next thing you can come back to and fix it. How do you feel? Do you have any of that like?
Yeah, I mean, I have like, I guess I have two answers to your question. I have like the very grounded one, which is I don't know how long. Like I like my job and I don't want to leave it, and I'm really happy they've been able to like support me remotely, and that is, you know, equitable for everybody right now. But you never know, you know, if I have to get a new job or if they lay me off or something like that, this time goes away.
Yeah.
So in a way, I am dealing with a moment in my life where my kids are of a certain age and my work, you know, is at least the commute's gone from both ends, and I have some time that may be gone. Now, I do think I'll get it back as I get older, right?
Yeah.
Like looking into my 50s and 60s, and obviously retirement as I get much older, that I'll have time to write. And I certainly want to be able to write through that because I'm going to need something to like do. And that gets to my other point of, I think a drive, you know, art is personal and I love writing for its own sake and its own benefit, but I do want to be read, and I do feel an urgency to share.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is too much, where I want to get something off that's not even quite finished yet. Like, thank God I didn't send my third draft off to anybody but you and my wife, because the shit that you found, I would have been really embarrassed about had I sent that to like 15 people. But I do feel just an inherent objective urgency to get this done and get it out and go on to the next thing, because I do feel like, I don't know, it's like egotistical or overly confident, but I feel like it's enjoyable, and and I don't want to. There's that, you know, dichotomy of I'm writing for myself, but I also really want to be read, and I don't need to be read by hundreds of thousands of people. But if I could be read by 500 to 1,000, well, geez, I mean, I loved it back in the day when I used to, you know, do movie interviews or reviews or book reviews and stuff like that. Just the idea of like being read always kind of, I don't know, made me happy. I got a little dopamine reward from that. And I'm sure everybody can relate these days on social. I mean, that's all that like likes or shares are of your stuff, is just that, oh, I've been read and validated or whatever.
Yeah.
But not for my looks or whatever else. It's just like my brain and my words and the things I'm trying to get across. And I do feel an urgency to share. And I think I have ever since like probably middle school, when I like first started writing, you know, and actually even before that. I remember the first book I wrote when I was a little kid, because I was watching horror movies back in the day, and it was like this whole fan fiction that I'd written in elementary school about Friday the 13th. I was so damn proud of it.
Nice.
I thought it was so cool. You know, I colored the cover and I shared it with my parents. And my brother read it, who I like looked up to, and he was like, "This is ridiculous." And I was like, "Oh man." But that's still that kind of impetus of like writing a thing and sharing it. I've had since then. I did it through middle school and through high school, through college, you know, through writers groups. And this is that on a larger scale, where I'm like going to attempt to expose myself to a much larger audience than just friends and family. Whether anybody reads it, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But I'm giving it a go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel an urgency, and I can only say that it's not like logical. It's just like a core feeling of,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to share.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing else outside of just, your own sensibility of saying like, I need to get this done. I want to get this out there so people will read.
And then every time I come across like a bit of like a similar media,
Yeah.
that either momentarily derails me of like crap, like mine is very similar to this, or it's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, like there's an audience for the
Yeah.
stuff that I'm doing and it pushes me along. And there's that little bit of like artistic jealousy that kind of swells in me. And I try to turn that into motivation as opposed to it derailing me. And,
Yeah.
I say
Yeah.
it's 50-50. Sometimes I'm kind of like, oh man, Stranger Things got tentacles. And other times I'm like, wow, like that Nick Cutter book is like really cool. And like I hit on very similar themes.
Yeah.
There's an audience. That's in Barnes and Noble. Maybe if I polish my turd up,
Yeah.
I could, be published somewhere. So
Coming back to the things that I think I need to do and the things that I know I should be doing for myself and to keep me productive and chugging through, especially when you get those moments of kind of lost is one, having that goal, and then also, setting that time aside for yourself and making it consistent and making sure that's the thing that you're doing and within that hour or 2 hours, half hour, even whatever it is, like this is what I'm working on. I think that's the most important thing. I think I've run into problems where like I say I've got like a 3 hour or 4 hour block and like I'll break it up and move an hour here, 2 hours here. It's like, no, I should just, I usually start at like 8 a.m. and go till like 12 or 11. That should be it every day. That should be my minimum goal right there. Do that.
Yeah, I'd say though, like I totally agree with schedule and setting the time. That sounds like a lot of time to me, but that's because we just have different time to spend.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're setting aside your time and you notice that time, say you got a 2 hour window or a 3 hour window, and you notice that time isn't being spent productively and you're kind of getting overwhelmed or spinning your wheels and nothing's happening, I'd suggest walking away and trying to fill that time with like life. And then coming back so you don't get stuck in a pit, right? Because in a way it turns into like punishment or self-flagellation or just stress and worry, where it sounds like you can sometimes fall into your time and then you kind of look up and you go, it's dark.
Yeah.
But I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So if you can like, I don't know, set an alarm, do something to kind of catch yourself and be like, have I written anything? No, I'm still researching, or I'm reading the comments again. I should go get a drink with a friend.
Yeah.
I should go for a walk.
Yeah. If you're actually not getting anything done, then spend that time not just down a rabbit hole.
But yeah, there's that intention. I think you can lose it real quickly, and then you'll look back on those days and be like, well, I didn't actually do anything, and did those cyclical thoughts. Honestly, it's like worry, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and it's the whole reason for like mindfulness and meditation. Like you can get caught in this like cycle, this loop of repetitive thoughts, and your time just goes away. And it feels like you're doing something because your body's stressed in this perpetual state of like fight or flight.
Yeah.
And then the time's gone and you haven't done a damn thing. So yeah, I mean, if you can take a breath and just account and see if you've done something.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. Take a big breath. Call a friend.
Yeah, call a friend.
Make me a spreadsheet.
Yeah, call a friend, but just don't make any plans with them, because then they'll get in the way of you actually writing later on.
Yeah, Russ, if you could like invite me for a walk and then just pop out of a bush and hit me in the leg with a golf club.
Yeah,
and get me in the hospital.
Sure, I can do that. I'll surprise you down in Jersey.
Just I need 2 days off,
Yeah, I'll probably get arrested. No, we meant to do this.
I don't have the time to file charges. Don't worry about it.
You guys plan this? Yeah, it's really long. We got to listen to the episode 11 there about art life balance. You'll understand.
That's a manifesto.
Yeah, you're both idiots. Both going to jail. All right. Well, I think that's it. I think we've done it. So that's our episode. Thanks everyone for listening. If you enjoyed the episode and you think someone would too, let them know.
Or if you have any suggestions.
Yeah, suggestions, ideas, feedback. You can find us on Twitter at writer_syndrome. Head over to writersyndrome.com for all our episodes and contact info. What are we talking about next time?
I think genre expectations.
Ooh, which we did touch on at the end of our interview with Jeff Morrison.
Yeah.
So you should definitely go back and check out that, because like the second part 2 is we got into genre expectations. A great chat with him. So we're gonna kind of dive further into that on our next episode. Until next time, keep writing.
Yeah, man.